Around 1800 BC, the Mayans would settle into the Mexican and Central American region, building an empire that would last for thousands of years. Their culture withstood the test of time until it was finally conquered by the Spaniards in the 1600s, destroying what remained of their faith and beliefs. Or did it?
5% of the population now that they practices Mayan spirituality.
A small percentage of people across Central America still practice Mayan spirituality and carry on the traditions of their ancestors. I wanted to visit one of these ruins to learn more for myself. So I drove out to Boston to meet with my friend John, a frequent flyer to Guatemala, to join him on a trip to the Mayan ruins. Flying across land and sea, we made it to the Guatemalan airport and traveled to our hotel, ready for the day to come. I want to thank John and Hug It Forward for making this trip possible. More about them later. Nestled in the mountains, Ximsh used to be the Mayan capital around the time the Spaniards would have arrived. Here is where I met Dimas, a Mayan expert and my guide into the Mayan culture, where I not only got to see and learn about the Mayan ruins, but also witnessed firsthand how modern-day Mayan believers practice their faith. However, as you can imagine, with such a long history, the Mayan faith hasn't always looked the same throughout the years, and modern-day rituals are not necessarily representative of rituals that would have took place during the early era of the Mayan Kingdom. What does remain consistent between the ancient and modern-day version of the Mayan spirituality is the centrality of ritual. The heartbeat of Mayan religion is to connect oneself with nature and with the gods through certain types of rituals. In ancient Mayan practice, pretty much everything was spiritual, and everything to a certain extent was a ritual.
Exactamente.
Yeah, the Mayans
Exactamente.
used to combine a lot like
Entonces no era un
the physical
deporte.
with the non-physical, right? The spirituality.
Ritual was a way of life, especially at Ximshi. The very architecture of their palaces and their temples were designed to honor their gods.
Y les
So
decía,
now where we're standing, this is like the center of this plaza, you know, this is one of the altars that was very important for them, and we can see that it's this same shape which has a meaning, you know.
tiene 20.
It has 20 corners, and 20 it's a sacred number for the Mayans.
The structure of their government was to maximize their spiritual giftings and skills.
Aquí vivían 4 grupos.
So we had 4 main families, so it was like an alliance, you know, it was something strategical to keep the power within their own Mayan tribe, which was the Cachiquel, and each family had their own strengths and abilities, and they combine all of that to be stronger as a group, you know. They organize their lives and their culture around their beliefs, you know.
The sports they played helped them denote their standing with the gods or predict their futures. And in the case of the Maya ball game, it even represented the structure of the cosmos.
Como una forma de H.
The court has the shape of a capital I, or H,
Tiene un gran significado.
and it has a meaning as well.
El significado
In
de
the
esto
Mayan
es
vision, this is representing the shape of the universe.
y el universo.
So in the Mayan vision, they believe there is like an underworld, a middle world, and the upper world.
Nothing in their society was absent of meaning or ritual or tradition. Everything had value, everything had meaning to a certain extent. But of course, the most popularly known form of ritual within the ancient Mayan tradition was sacrifice.
In general, all the Mayans, they practice the ceremonies and the offerings, you know, it's part of their culture. They even used like different animal sacrifices. There were different moments too during the ceremony that they could also offer their own blood into the fire.
Animal and blood sacrifices were made to build connections with the gods from other worlds, and they had other purposes as well, such as purification, or simply a means of prayer.
Ellos tenían la
The
idea
blood represented like a strong energy, so it was used in the ceremonies in order to
más atracción
to
complacía.
get whatever they were asking, you know.
Ya que desde la
The Mayans believe kind of like in God, no? That there's great power, no, but they believe this great power is reciprocal. Like we need from him and he needs from us, you know. So it's this relationship we can develop for an exchange.
And very early on in Mayan history, there's evidence suggesting these sacrifices may have also included humans.
Some of the Mayan groups, they practice it at some part of their history, some part of the time, you know, but then they stop using it.
Many of these practices didn't continue into the modern era, and in the case of human sacrifice, it didn't continue even into the time when the Spaniards would have arrived. In the Mayan spirituality that survived following the Spaniard conquest was heavily influenced by Catholicism. A physical representation of this blending of culture can be seen still today with churches built on top of former Mayan temples. In many ways, this is how the modern version of Mayan spiritualism came to be. The classical Mayans were polytheists who believed that nature was sacred. They believed the sun was a god and the moon was a goddess, representing almost like a duality within the universe. There's evidence of other gods that they would have had, such as the maize god and the rain god. Modern day practitioners, on the other hand, vary in their fundamental beliefs. Some are more Catholic, believing in a Christian form of God, while others are kind of like their ancestors, where they tend to be more polytheistic or pantheistic. What ultimately ties them together is the way they commune or connect with nature and the gods they worship. Practitioners today will make fires, do prayers, and sometimes do small sacrifices of inanimate objects or even small animals in certain cases. Some examples of inanimate objects people may sacrifice or give up in these fires would be candles, food, or potentially things like a wooden statue. Depending on what the person is trying to accomplish will determine what type of prayers they say or the actions they take during the ritual. Dimas shared an example of a modern day Mayan ritual. He set up a fire with candles, then gathered everyone together to hold hands as he said a prayer in a tribal language.
Yalang yalang matyoshich ibonohel rish ruma ni temechrika kaslem. Matyosh, matyosh, matyosh.
Following this prayer, he gave each person a candle to cast their cares or wishes upon and tossed them into the fire. Then he passed a cigar around to be shared and had time for silent prayer. To finish this all off, he recommended people cover themselves with smoke for spiritual cleansing. This was a simple and quick ritual, although some can take hours if not days to complete. But the one Dimas performed was a very simple prayer that only took a few minutes. Ultimately, the goal of many of these rituals is to raise awareness of the interconnectedness between nature and man, or to gain appreciation for life, or to pray for something for good favor and blessing, or for maybe even awareness of what may come down the road. And for those with theistic beliefs, it can also be used to honor gods or the god that they worship.
He says this is not a religion, right? This is just spirituality, just connecting. So whatever your beliefs is, you can connect your own way.
For those who practice Mayan spirituality regularly and take it seriously, they may even follow the Mayan calendar. The Mayan calendar is treated almost like a horoscope. It helps people understand what energies are going on that day, so they know what rituals they ought to perform. To those outside of Central America, it is often perceived that the Mayan culture and religion has died and gone away years ago when the Spaniards would have conquered their kingdom. However, it still lives on in the Mayan people, who try to keep their culture alive and their spiritual practices thriving. They try their best to connect with the energies they believe to be around them or with their ancestors from long ago. And I am grateful to have seen this culture for myself, a culture I also once believed was long gone. I want to thank John and Hug It Forward for making this trip possible. I am not sponsored by them in any way, and they did not ask me to say this. Hug It Forward is a non-for-profit group that helps build schools in mountainous areas in Guatemala for communities that have a hard time getting a proper education. These schools help the children within those communities grow in education and have better chances economically and in life in general. I was grateful to join this non-for-profit to actually help build one of these schools for a week and had the opportunity as well to visit the Mayan ruins. If you would like to learn more or support this group, I will have a link down in the description below where you can go check out their website. And I would encourage you to do so. Thank you. With that being said, thank you for watching, and until next time, farewell.